"You're too old for birthday parties," my mom said, canceling my 30th. That weekend, I hosted a charity gala instead, sponsored by her employer. When she arrived to work Monday, the phone call came on a Tuesday, 4 days before my 30th birthday party. I was in my apartment, surrounded by half-packed boxes of decorations, a spreadsheet open on my laptop detailing the caterer's final payment, the DJ's set times, and a guest list that had just crested 100 people. It was supposed to be the party of the decade, or at least my decade. A real celebration, the kind I'd always wanted but never quite got. My mother's name flashed on the screen, and I answered with a smile, expecting a last-minute question about her +1. "I'm canceling the party," she said. There was no preamble, no greeting, just a flat, declarative statement dropped into the middle of my Tuesday like a chunk of concrete. I laughed, a short, nervous puff of air. "What? Funny joke, Mom. Are you bringing Uncle Robert? Because I need a final head count. This isn't a joke, Amelia. I've already called the venue. It's canceled. I'm getting the deposit back." Her voice was clipped, efficient. The voice she used when she was managing a project, which I was beginning to realize was how she saw me. A project, often a failing one. The spreadsheet on my screen blurred. The colors of the highlighted cells ran together. What? You can't do that? Everything is arranged. People have booked flights, Mom. My friends from college are flying in. Well, you can tell them to unbook them. It's ridiculous. What's ridiculous? I asked, my voice getting tight. The decorations in the boxes suddenly looked garish and childish. The sheer volume of them felt like an indictment. "A 30th birthday party," she sniffed, the sound crackling with disdain. "Amelia, you're too old for birthday parties. It's unseemly. A grown woman wanting all that attention, making people buy her gifts, a big cake. It's what children do. You need to start acting your age." The words hit me with a physical force. It felt as if the air had been punched from my lungs. Too old, unseemly, childish. Each word was a carefully selected dart aimed at the softest, most insecure parts of me, parts that she had meticulously cultivated over 30 years. I sank onto the edge of a cardboard box, the corner digging into my leg. It wasn't about the gifts, I stammered, hating how weak I sounded. It was about celebrating, with my friends, with family, with you. "Well, I'm not celebrating this juvenile display. It's embarrassing. Your father agrees with me." Of course he did. He always did. His agreement was a foregone conclusion, a silent, passive endorsement of her every whim. He was the wallpaper in the background of her tyranny. "But you were helping me plan it," I whispered. My throat was closing up. "You seemed so excited. We went cake tasting last month. You picked the lemon raspberry. I was trying to be supportive of your hobbies," she said, the pause before hobbies stretching into an insult. "But I've been thinking about it, and I can't in good conscience enable this. It's time for you to grow up. This is for your own good, for my own good." The 4 most dangerous words in my mother's vocabulary. They were the preamble to every casual cruelty, every boundary steamrolled, every dream belittled. My 8th grade art project, the one I'd spent a month on, was thrown out because it was cluttering the house for my own good. My decision to major in literature was met with a week of silent treatment, followed by a lecture on unemployable degrees for my own good. My first serious boyfriend was driven away by her constant cutting remarks about his family's finances, all for my own good. "The deposit was my money, Mom," I said, my voice shaking with a rage that was starting to burn through the shock. "I transferred it to you last week. You can't just take it. I'm holding on to it," she said smoothly. "Think of it as the first contribution to your retirement account. Another thing a grown woman should be thinking about instead of birthday cake." And then she hung up. I sat there for a long time, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dead air. The silence in my apartment was absolute. It was the sound of 100 plans disintegrating, the sound of humiliation. I looked at the spreadsheet, at the names of my friends, my cousins, my life, all of them expecting to come together to celebrate me, and my own mother had just decided I wasn't worth celebrating. The first tear that fell was hot with shame, then came a flood of them, hot with a grief so old I could barely trace its origins. Grief for the little girl who was told her handmade birthday cards were messy. Grief for the teenager whose excitement about getting her driver's license was met with a lecture on insurance premiums. Grief for the young woman whose every achievement was measured against an impossible standard and found wanting. She hadn't just canceled a party, she had canceled me. Again, I cried for a solid hour, a deep, gut-wrenching sob that left me empty and raw. I lay on the floor amidst the festive debris of a life she refused to acknowledge. The streamers and balloons seemed to mock me. "You're too old. It's unseemly. Grow up." Her voice echoed in the hollow space inside me, and in that moment, I almost believed her. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was a joke. A 30-year-old woman crying on the floor because her mommy took her party away. But then, something else began to bubble up through the grief. It was a slow, hot burn. It was anger. An anger so pure and so potent it felt like a jolt of electricity. It wasn't just about the party anymore. It was about the lifetime of tiny paper cuts, the constant erosion of my self-worth, the relentless campaign to make me feel small so she could feel big. She thought I was a child. She thought she could take my toys away, and I would just sit in the corner and cry. She had done it 100 times before, and it had always worked. But this time was different. 30th birthdays are a milestone. They are a demarcation line, and she had just pushed me over it. I stood up, my knees creaking. I walked to the bathroom and looked at my reflection. My face was a mess, puffy, red, streaked with mascara, but my eyes were clear. The fog of trying to please her, of seeking her approval, had finally lifted. It was burned away by the fury. She wanted me to grow up? Fine, I would. I grabbed my laptop, sat back down on the floor, and deleted the party planning spreadsheet without a moment's hesitation. I opened a new blank document. My fingers flew across the keyboard. The humiliation was still there, a raw wound, but I was packing it with purpose. I wasn't going to just lie down and take it. I wasn't going to call my friends and tell them my mommy had canceled my party. No, she had canceled a birthday party. I was going to host a charity gala. The idea was insane. It was Tuesday evening. I had until Saturday, 3.5 days to pull off an event that professionals spend months, even years planning. It was impossible. It was ridiculous. It was perfect. The sheer audacity of it was a direct challenge to her assessment of me as a silly, ineffectual child. My hands were shaking, but not from grief anymore. It was adrenaline. It was the thrill of rebellion. First step, a cause. It had to be something that would mean something to me, something that would twist the knife just a little. I thought back to 8th grade, to the lumpy clay sculpture of a dragon I had been so proud of, the one she'd tossed in the bin. The Art Forward Foundation, a local nonprofit that provided art supplies and mentorship to kids in underserved schools. It was perfect. I had volunteered for them a few times in college. I still knew the director, a woman named Sarah. Second step, a venue. The resort she'd canceled was out, but I had my own career, my own network. I worked in public relations. I spent my days building connections, managing crises, and making things happen. For years, I had used that skill set to manage my mother's moods, to promote the fiction of our happy family. Now I would use it for myself. I scrolled through my contacts, my mind racing. The Grand Astoria Hotel, downtown, elegant. And they owed me a favor after I'd handled the press for that kitchen fire they had last spring. Third step, and this was the master stroke. This was the part that made my heart hammer against my ribs with a giddy, terrifying thrill. Funding. A gala, even a last-minute thrown-together one, cost a fortune. My canceled party was already stretching my budget. I needed a sponsor, a big one. My mother, Helen, was a senior vice president of corporate outreach for Viridian Global, one of the largest financial firms in the state. Her job, ironically, was to identify and facilitate partnerships with nonprofits. She built her entire professional reputation on being a benevolent, community-minded executive. She curated the company's image as a pillar of philanthropic virtue. It was her whole identity, and it was a lie. Her charity began and ended at the office door. I knew this because I knew her, but her boss, Mr. Abernathy, the CEO, didn't. He saw the public face, the charming, articulate, generous Helen who chaired committees and presented oversized checks to grateful organizations. I had a contact at Viridian, not just any contact. My college roommate Chloe was now a director in their marketing department. We hadn't talked in a few months, but we were close. She knew my mother. She'd weathered enough of my tearful phone calls over the years to have a very clear picture of the woman behind the corporate mask. My fingers trembled as I typed out the text to her. Chloe, I have a crazy, time-sensitive, possibly career-defining proposal for you. Got 5 minutes? My phone pinged a second later. For you, Amelia? I've got 10. I took a deep breath and made the call. I laid it all out. The canceled party. The "you're too old" speech. The humiliation. I didn't cry this time. My voice was level, professional. I was a PR person making a pitch. Then I pivoted. So, I'm turning my personal disaster into a public good. I'm hosting a fundraiser for Art Forward this Saturday. I have the venue on hold. I have the charity on board. I need a title sponsor. Viridian Global presents the Future in Color Gala. It's a slam dunk PR opportunity, a story of resilience, community engagement, supporting the arts. It's everything your company stands for. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her thinking, the gears turning. Amelia, this is audacious, she finally said, a slow smile in her voice. You're trying to pull this off by Saturday? Yes, I said, my voice firm. And you want Viridian to foot the bill for an event your own mother, our SVP of corporate outreach, just tried to sabotage? That's the poetic justice part of the pitch, I said. But from a business perspective, it's a feel-good story that writes itself. We can have a press release out by tomorrow morning. Local news would eat this up. Chloe laughed, a full, delighted sound. Oh, they would. Abernathy is obsessed with optics. He loves this kind of grassroots, nimble philanthropy. It makes the company look responsive and human, especially with the arts. His wife is on the board of the museum. Exactly, I said, my hope surging. Okay, she said, let me work. I can't promise anything, but I'm going to frame this for my boss as a rapid response community initiative. A chance to get ahead of the news cycle with something positive. I'll leave your mother's name out of it for now. I'll just say you're a local organizer who came to us with an urgent need. If this works, it's going to be spectacular. We hung up, and I felt a dizzying mix of terror and elation. I had set in motion a massive, complicated, beautiful machine of revenge. Now I just had to build it in 3 days. The next 72 hours were a blur of controlled chaos. My apartment became a command center. My 2 best friends friends, Maya and Liam, showed up an hour after I made the first call, armed with takeout and a shared laptop. They were my emergency response team. She did what? Maya had shrieked, her voice echoing in my small living room. Oh, that woman is a monster. A beautifully dressed, socially acceptable monster. Liam, ever the pragmatist, just cracked his knuckles. Okay, so it's a gala now. What's the asset list? What's the budget? Who's running point on vendors? We worked through the night. I called the Grand Astoria and cashed in my favor. The manager, a perpetually stressed man named David, was hesitant. Amelia, a gala on a Saturday? My ballroom is booked for a wedding. David, I said, my voice smooth and calm, channeling the PR professional I was paid to be. Remember last spring? Remember when I kept sewer line rupture from becoming the headline of your Sunday food section review? I need the mezzanine. It overlooks the lobby, it's beautiful, and it's empty on Saturday. We'll make it work. He sighed, a long, weary sound. The mezzanine isn't equipped for a full dinner service. We're not doing a full dinner service, I said, thinking on my feet. We're doing a cocktail reception. Past hors d'oeuvres, champagne towers. It's elegant. It's chic. It's cheaper. He was quiet for a moment. Fine, for you, Amelia, but you owe me. Big time. One problem solved. Next, Sarah from the Art Forward Foundation. I called her at nearly midnight. She answered on the second ring, her voice thick with sleep. I apologized and then launched into my frantic pitch. When I finished, she was fully awake. Amelia, are you serious? She asked, a note of awe in her voice. A gala this Saturday with Viridian Global, potentially, I hedged. Chloe is working on it, but I need you on board. I need your logo, your mission statement, a list of donor tiers. Can you get me that by morning? Can I get you that? She practically yelled. Amelia, we just had our funding slashed by the city. We were about to cut our summer program. If you can pull even a fraction of this off, I'll name a program after you. I'll build you a statue out of macaroni. Her enthusiasm was a shot of pure caffeine. This was real. This was helping people. It wasn't just about my mother anymore. It was bigger than that. The anger had been the spark, but purpose was now the fuel. Wednesday morning, Chloe called. You're not going to believe this, she said, her voice breathless. Abernathy loved it. He absolutely loved it. He called it wonderfully disruptive. He said it's exactly the kind of agile, high-impact initiative Viridian should be championing. He signed off on the top-tier sponsorship package. I sank into my chair, my legs suddenly weak. How much? $50,000, she said. I choked on my coffee. 50. Chloe, that's enough to fund Art Forward for a year. I know, she said, and I could hear the grin in her voice. The money will be wired to the foundation this afternoon. The contract is on its way to your inbox. You just have to do one thing. Anything, I breathed. You have to pull this off, and you have to make sure Abernathy has a good time. He's coming with his wife. The news galvanized us. $50,000. It was a real budget, a serious budget. Liam, who worked in finance, immediately built a new, much more exciting spreadsheet. Maya, a graphic designer, started mocking up digital invitations and a logo. Viridian Global presents the future in color gala. The invitations went out via email that afternoon. The subject line was bold. An urgent invitation. Help us save the arts in 72 hours. The body of the email told a streamlined, compelling story. It mentioned the sudden, critical funding gap for Art Forward and the incredible last-minute coalition of community members and corporate partners coming together to fill it. It mentioned me by name as the event chair. It did not mention my mother. The RSVPs started pouring in. My PR contacts, friends, family friends, and a surprising number of people from Viridian who had been forwarded the invitation by Chloe's department. The story was compelling. The urgency created a buzz. Everyone loves a race against time, especially for a good cause. Of course, it didn't take long for the news to reach its intended target. My phone rang on Wednesday evening. It was my mother. I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready. I needed to be in a stronger place before I talked to her. Her message was icy. Amelia, I don't know what kind of stunt you think you're pulling, but you need to stop it right now. I've been getting calls all day. You are attaching my company's name to some bake sale you're throwing together in a fit of pique. You will cease and desist immediately. You are going to embarrass me, and you are going to embarrass this family. A year ago, that message would have crushed me. It would have sent me into a spiral of anxiety and self-doubt. But now, it was fuel. I saved the voicemail. I imagined playing it for my therapist. I imagined playing it for Mr. Abernathy. I imagined it being played to a jury. I texted her back a single polite sentence. Thank you for your concern, but everything is handled. I hope you can still make it on Saturday. Her response was a string of furious question marks. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of details. We secured a caterer who specialized in high-end cocktail parties. I called a florist I knew and begged her for any leftover arrangements from a wedding she was doing earlier that day. I booked a jazz trio from the local conservatory. Liam handled the ticketing platform and the donation processing. Maya designed the programs, the signage, and a beautiful step-and-repeat banner with the gala's logo and the names of Art Forward and Viridian Global side by side. My apartment was a disaster zone of printouts, fabric swatches, and empty coffee cups. I barely slept. I lived on adrenaline and the constant ping of new RSVPs. The guest list grew to over 200 people. We were selling tickets. Real tickets. tickets for real money, all of it going to the foundation. On Thursday, my mother escalated. She started calling relatives. My Aunt Carol called me, her voice dripping with false concern. Amelia, dear, your mother is worried sick. She says you're not well, that you're having some sort of episode. This party thing, it's not healthy. Why don't you just cancel it and come over for a quiet dinner? We can talk. I'm perfectly fine, Aunt Carol, I said, my voice dangerously calm. In fact, I've never been better. The gala is coming along beautifully. Mr. Abernathy, the CEO of Mom's company, is going to be there. I'd love for you and Uncle Robert to come if you're free. The name drop hung in the air. Aunt Carol sputtered. Oh, well, I didn't realize it was so official. It's very official, I said. I'll send you the link for tickets. This was her strategy, to paint me as unstable. The hysterical, emotional daughter having a tantrum. It was a classic move from her playbook. She had used it to discredit my feelings my entire life, but it wasn't working this time. This time I had receipts. I had a corporate sponsorship, a venue contract, and a growing list of very sane, very respectable attendees. The rock bottom moment came on Friday afternoon. I was on the phone with the rental company, confirming the delivery of tables and linens when my credit card was declined. I tried another one. Declined. I logged into my bank account. My checking and savings accounts were nearly empty. My heart stopped. I knew, with a sickening certainty, what had happened. My mother was still on my main checking account, a relic from my college days that I'd never gotten around to changing. It was a for emergencies only arrangement. I had trusted her. It was a stupid, childish mistake. I called the bank's fraud department, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. There's been an unauthorized transfer, I told the representative. Almost all of my money. It was moved to another account this morning. The representative was calm and methodical. I see the transfer, ma'am. It was initiated online to a linked account under the name Helen Sterling. That's my mother, I said, my voice cracking. She does not have my authorization to make transfers of that size. I see, the representative said. According to our records, she is a joint owner on this account, which gives her full access to the funds. I'm afraid there's nothing we can do from our end. It's not considered fraud. It's a domestic issue. A domestic issue. She had drained my accounts, sabotaging my ability to pay my vendors less than 36 hours before the event, and it was a domestic issue. The rage from Tuesday felt like a distant memory compared to the white-hot inferno that now consumed me. This wasn't just emotional manipulation anymore. This was theft. I hung up the phone and slid down the wall in my hallway, pulling my knees to my chest. This was it. This was the checkmate. She had finally done it. She had broken me. I had no money. The caterer, the musicians, the rental company, they would all cancel. The whole thing would collapse. She would be proven right. I was a foolish child playing dress-up, and I had failed. Maya found me there 10 minutes later. I couldn't even speak. I just pointed at my laptop screen, at the zero balance in my account. She read it, her eyes widening. Then her expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. That witch, she whispered. That absolute monster. It's over, I croaked. She won. No, Maya said, kneeling in front of me. She grabbed my shoulders. No, she does not. We are not letting her win. Not this time. She pulled out her phone. Liam, get in here. We have a code red. Liam was there in minutes. He looked at the bank statement, his face grim. He didn't say anything for a full minute, just stared at the numbers. Then he looked at me. Okay, he said, his voice quiet but firm. This is bad, but it's not fatal. It's a cash flow problem. The money from the ticket sales is in the foundation's account. The sponsorship money is in the foundation's account. The money exists. It's just not in your account. But I need to pay the vendors now, I sobbed. They need deposits. We'll cover it, he said simply. He pulled out his wallet and put his credit card on the coffee table. Maya did the same. We'll put the deposits on our cards. We'll call Sarah at the foundation and have her issue us reimbursement checks on Monday. It's a bridge loan from us to you. I stared at them, at their faces, so full of trust and determination. They were willing to put their own money on the line for me, for my insane, vindictive gala. The love I felt for them in that moment was so powerful, it physically hurt. It was the antidote to my mother's poison. I can't ask you to do that, I whispered. You're not asking, Maya said, wiping a tear from my cheek with her thumb. We're offering. This isn't just your fight anymore, Amelia. We're in this with you. Now, get up. We have a gala to throw. That was the turning point. Her attempt to destroy me had only revealed the strength of the real family I had built for myself. My friends, my network, the people who saw me for who I was, not for who my mother wanted me to be. Saturday arrived in a rush of nervous energy. I was at the Grand Astoria by 9 a.m., directing the rental company, coordinating with David, the hotel manager, and triple-checking every last detail. The mezzanine, which had been a stark, empty space, was slowly transformed. Black linens, gold chargers, and towering floral arrangements in deep jewel tones. The jazz trio set up in a corner. The step and repeat banner was positioned perfectly for photos. It looked real. It looked spectacular. I had bought a new dress, not the one I'd planned to wear for my birthday, a frothy, pink thing that suddenly felt too young. This one was a sleek black column of silk. It was sophisticated, powerful, and understated. It was armor. By 6:30 p.m., the space was glowing. The champagne towers were filled. The caterers were ready with their trays, and the trio was playing a low, cool melody. Sarah from Art Forward arrived, her eyes wide wide with disbelief. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "You did it," she whispered in my ear. "You actually did it." "We did it," I corrected her, looking at Maya and Liam, who were straightening the guest book. The guests began to arrive at 7. It was a flood of friendly faces, of colleagues and friends who greeted me with hugs and exclamations of wonder. "Amelia, this is incredible. I can't believe you pulled this together so fast. The foundation is so lucky to have you." Each compliment was a balm on the raw wound of my mother's making. I wasn't a child. I was a force. Then, at 7:30, Mr. Abernathy arrived with his wife. He was a tall, imposing man with a warm smile and kind eyes. He took my hand in both of his. "Miss Sterling," he boomed, "a pleasure to finally meet the whirlwind I've been hearing about all week." Chloe wasn't exaggerating. "This is magnificent." "Thank you for coming, Mr. Abernathy," I said, my voice steady. "And thank you for your company's incredible generosity. You've made a real difference tonight." "It's our honor," he said, gesturing around the crowded room. "This is exactly the kind of community spirit we want to foster. You've done a remarkable thing here." His wife, a chic woman in a Chanel suit, was equally effusive. "And for Art Forward, such a worthy cause. I was just telling Charles we need to get more involved with them." We chatted for a few minutes, and I introduced them to Sarah, who expertly and passionately explained the foundation's work. I could see Abernathy was impressed. This was working. It was all working. And then I saw her. My mother was standing at the entrance to the mezzanine, my father hovering a step behind her like a nervous shadow. She was wearing a crimson dress, a color designed to command attention, but in the sea of elegant black and jewel tones, she looked garish, loud. Her eyes swept the room, and I saw the precise moment her brain processed the scene. Her expression shifted from smug expectation to utter disbelief. She had come expecting to see a disaster. A handful of my friends huddled in a sad, empty room. She had come to witness my failure, to gather the evidence she needed to prove her point. Instead, she was looking at a roaring success. A packed, glamorous, high-profile event, sponsored by her own employer, with her CEO holding court in the center of the room. Her face, for just a second, was a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. Then, just as quickly, it was gone, replaced by a tight, brittle smile. She began to move through the room, a shark gliding through water. She was in her element, networking, greeting people she knew. She was trying to reclaim it, to absorb my success and make it her own. "Darling!" she exclaimed when she finally reached me, her voice loud enough for Mr. Abernathy, who was still nearby, to hear. She wrapped me in a stiff, theatrical hug that smelled of expensive perfume and rage. "I am so proud of you. What a marvelous little party you've put together." Little party. The condescension was reflexive, automatic, but this time, it didn't land. It bounced right off my silk armor. "I'm so glad you could make it, Mother," I said, my voice sweet as poison. I turned to her boss. "Mr. Abernathy, I don't believe you formally met my mother, Helen Sterling." Abernathy's face lit up. "Helen, of course! I was just telling your daughter what an absolute marvel she is. A force of nature. You must be bursting with pride." My mother's smile tightened at the edges. "I am," she said through her teeth. "Amelia is full of surprises." "You kept this one under wraps, Helen," Abernathy continued, chuckling. "A daughter with this kind of talent for event management and fundraising? You should have brought her into the corporate outreach fold years ago." I watched my mother's face. I watched the blood drain from it. I watched as she struggled to formulate a response that would maintain her facade. It was the most satisfying thing I had ever seen. "She has her own path," my mother finally managed, patting my arm in a gesture that was meant to look maternal but felt like a pinch. At 8 o'clock, it was time for the speeches. Sarah went first, speaking with heartfelt gratitude about what this night meant for the children her foundation served. Then, she introduced me. I stepped up to the microphone, my heart pounding. The room fell silent. I looked out at the sea of faces. I saw my friends, beaming. I saw Mr. Abernathy smiling encouragingly. And I saw my mother, her face a carefully constructed mask of pleasant interest. "Good evening, everyone," I began, my voice clear and strong. A few days ago, this event didn't exist. It was just an idea, born out of a sudden change of plans. A few of my friends chuckled knowingly. "I was told recently that a woman my age is too old for celebrations, that wanting to mark a milestone with joy and community is unseemly, childish." I didn't look at my mother, but I felt her gaze on me like a physical weight. The air in the room grew thick with tension. "But I disagree," I continued, my voice ringing with conviction. "I believe there is no age limit on joy. There is no expiration date on celebrating the people we love, and more importantly, there is no wrong time to come together and support something bigger than ourselves." I looked directly at Mr. Abernathy. "That's why I am so incredibly grateful to Viridian Global. When I came to them with this impossible last-minute idea, they didn't see an obstacle. They saw an opportunity to prove that a corporation can be more than just a name on a building. It can be a vital, responsive part of our community. Their generosity, their willingness to act decisively is the reason we are all here tonight. They didn't just sponsor an event. They invested in the future of hundreds of children." The room broke into applause. Abernathy was beaming, his face glowing with pride. "And finally," I said, my voice softening, "I want to thank my family. family. The family we choose. I looked at Maya and Liam, my eyes filling with tears. The people who show up in the middle of the night with takeout and spreadsheets, the ones who front you money when your bank account mysteriously empties. The gasp from Aunt Carol was audible. The ones who believe in you so fiercely that they rebuild your confidence piece by piece. They are the true foundation of any success I have. This night is for them. Thank you. I stepped away from the microphone to thunderous applause. I didn't look at my mother. I didn't have to. I had said everything I needed to say, right there in front of her boss and 200 other people. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't made a scene. I had simply told the truth, wrapped in the unimpeachable language of corporate-sponsored philanthropy. The rest of the evening was a joyous blur. People pressed checks into my hand for the foundation. Strangers came up to tell me how moved they were by my speech. Mr. Abernathy made a point of finding me before he left. "Young lady," he said, his expression serious, "that was one of the most poised and effective speeches I have ever heard. You have a rare talent. If you ever decide you want a bigger stage to play on, you call me directly. My door is always open." It was the ultimate validation, a validation I had spent my whole life seeking from a woman who was incapable of giving it. And here it was, being handed to me by her boss. My mother and father left without saying goodbye. I saw them slip out during the final song from the jazz trio. She didn't look back. On Monday morning, I was back in my apartment. It was clean now. The party boxes were gone. In their place on my coffee table was a stack of thank you notes I needed to write and the final tally from the gala. We had raised over $87,000 for Art Forward. At 10:15, my phone rang. It was Chloe. "Are you sitting down?" she asked, her voice electric. "I am." "Okay, so, your mother got to the office this morning. Word on the street is she was trying to spin the whole gala as her idea, some secret mentorship project she was doing with you. She was trying to take credit for it." I snorted. Of course she was. And then, at 10 o'clock, Abernathy's assistant summoned her to his office, the big glass one on the top floor. Chloe had a friend whose desk was right outside that office. She had heard the whole thing. Abernathy's voice, usually so jovial, had been low and cold. "Helen, I want to talk about Saturday's gala," he'd begun. I could imagine my mother preening, ready to accept the praise. "Yes, Charles. Wasn't it wonderful? I'm so proud of what my Amelia accomplished." "I am too," Abernathy had said, his voice dropping another 10 degrees. "I'm also confused. Your daughter is a star, Helen. A brilliant, resourceful, inspiring young woman. And all weekend I've been asking myself, why have you kept her hidden? Why, in all your years as the head of our corporate outreach, has the name of your phenomenally talented daughter never once crossed your lips?" Silence. "And then," Abernathy had continued, "I heard a few things. A rumor that the party was originally a birthday party that was canceled. A comment in your daughter's speech about her bank account being emptied. Small things, but they paint a picture, Helen. And it's not a flattering one." Chloe said my mother started to stammer, to deny everything. "Stop," Abernathy had commanded. "It doesn't matter. What matters is the optics. Our company just sponsored a majorly successful event chaired by the daughter of our own SVP of corporate outreach. An event you seemingly had nothing to do with and, if the rumors are true, may have actively tried to sabotage. At best, it makes you look incompetent. At worst, it makes you look malicious. Neither is a good look for Viridian Global. The result wasn't a firing. That would be too messy, too public. It was a classic corporate execution. My mother was being reassigned. Effective immediately, she was no longer the head of corporate outreach. Her new title was Senior Advisor for Internal Auditing. It was a non-job, a glorified filing position in a windowless office in the basement. She was being put out to pasture, stripped of her power, her prestige, and her public-facing role. She had built her entire identity on the pristine image of her job, and Abernathy had taken it away with a single, quiet conversation. Chloe finished the story, and I was quiet for a long time. I didn't feel the rush of triumph I expected. I just felt quiet. It was the quiet of a war finally being over. My mother called that afternoon. I answered for the last time, out of a sense of morbid curiosity. "You ruined me," she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper. There was no pretense left, no facade, just raw, ugly hatred. "You did this to me. After everything I've done for you. What did you do for me, Mom?" I asked, my voice genuinely curious. "What did you ever do that was just for me, with no benefit to you?" She sputtered, unable to answer. She launched into a tirade of insults, of accusations, of twisted history. I listened for a moment, and for the first time, I didn't hear a monster. I just heard a sad, pathetic, pathologically insecure woman who couldn't stand to see her own daughter shine. "I have to go now, Mom," I said calmly, cutting her off mid-sentence. "You don't hang up on me," she shrieked. I hung up. I went to my bank and closed the joint account. I opened a new one, in my name only. I transferred the money my friends had loaned me back into their accounts, with a note that said, "The first dividend from my new life." The scars are still there. A mother's love is a primary thing, and the lack of it leaves a phantom limb that aches on cold nights. Justice was served, but it was incomplete. A demotion and public embarrassment can't heal 30 years of psychological wounds, but it was a start. My life is my own now. I took the job with Abernathy, building out a new Department of Community-Led Initiatives for Veridian. I'm good at it. I get to help people, and I get to do it on my own terms. I still have dinner with my dad sometimes. He's quiet, apologetic in his own way. He never mentions her. It's a silent agreement we have. Last week, a package arrived at my office. It was from the Art Forward Foundation. Inside was a small, lumpy clay sculpture of a dragon, painted a brilliant, gleaming gold. It was awkward and charming and beautiful. The card attached just said, "For the woman who taught us how to build something amazing out of the rubble. Happy belated 30th. I put it on my desk, right in the center, where I can see it every day. It's not a trophy. It's a landmark. A reminder that I am not too old for celebrations. I am not unseemly. I am not a child. I am the architect of my own joy, and my work is just beginning.